Well, hello there, and welcome to my kitchen table, a place in most homes where we can sit with family and friends and just talk for hours. Putting the world to rights, as my dad used to say. Okay, I've got to mention my accent again, folks. I was born in Liverpool in the UK, which is where I live, and that makes me a Scouser. And we speak with an accent exceedingly rare. That's a line from a song, in case I haven't mentioned it before. Some people do have difficulty understanding our accent or understanding me, especially when I get worked up and start talking really fast. So, if you do have difficulty understanding and you need a little translation, just let me know in the comments and I will do my best to oblige. Okay? May I also start by saying that this is for adults only, please. Some of the content is not really fit for, shall we say, little ears. So, let's see where we're off to today. It is a Blackpool, a very popular seaside holiday town in the northwest of England, famous for its illuminations in the evenings from September to New Year's Day. The beach, complete with donkey rides in the summer, and the promenade dominated by the Pleasure Beach fairground. It's no Disneyland, but it's well worth a visit if you're in the vicinity. With Blackpool Tower standing at 158 metres, or just over 518 feet, it literally towers over the town, and it is actually visible from various places around the English and Welsh coastlines. It's home to the incredible Tower Ballroom and even a circus. Like I said, well worth a visit. So, if you're ready, take a seat and I'll tell you a story. Charlene Elizabeth Caroline Downes lived in Buchanan Street in Blackpool with her parents, Karen and Robert Downes, her brother and two sisters. The family had moved to Blackpool from the West Midlands in the late 1990s. Charlene attended St George's School. Although described as well and happy, she had experienced a chaotic lifestyle after being expelled from school, frequenting the area around Blackpool's central promenade. Charlene disappeared on the 1st of November 2003 when she was only 14 years old. She was last seen in an area of the town centre that contained several takeaways and fast food units. According to an internal police report, Charlene was one of 60 girls in Blackpool, some as young as 11, who had been groomed by men to carry out sex acts. The girls would be given food, cigarettes, and various gifts by male employees of the fast food outlets where she was last seen, in exchange for sex. Lancashire Constabulary, the police force investigating her disappearance, believed that she was murdered within hours of the last sighting. Charlene's mother, Karen, last spoke to Charlene early in the evening of the 1st of November 2003 in Blackpool Town Centre. Charlene was wearing black jeans with a gold eagle design on the front, a black jumper with a white diamond pattern and black boots. Police say she might also have been wearing a white cardigan or hoodie. Karen, her mother, was in Church Street handing out flyers for an Indian restaurant when she saw Charlene and one of her sisters, one of her other daughters, Rebecca, at around 6:45 p.m. The three of them talked briefly. Rebecca then said that she was going home, and Charlene said that she was going to meet some female friends. She called them from a local phone box, then waited. Yes, this was before everyone had a mobile phone. She then waited with her mother until her friends arrived. Karen watched the girls walk away together towards the Winter Gardens, and that was the last time she saw her daughter. The friends spent a short time together. Charlene then met another friend at around 9:30 and visited the former carousel bar on the North Pier. There is CCTV footage of a girl at 9 p.m. on the junction of Dixon Road and Talbot Road, which is the main thoroughfare that leads from the North Pier to the town centre. This is believed to have been Charlene. She was with an unidentified woman in her 30s with dyed blonde hair, wearing a 3/4 length coat. According to Charlene's friend, she left the carousel bar with Charlene and returned to the town centre at around 10 p.m. Her friends last saw her around 11 p.m. near Talbot Road and Abingdon Street. Charlene's mother, Karen Downes, is quoted as saying, "I can't think the worst. I just wouldn't be able to carry on if I did. The week she went missing, it all seemed normal. Charlene was watching her Darren Day videos as usual. Only days after she went missing, she was due back to school to discuss going back there. This is the school that she'd been expelled from. Darren Day, Charlene's favourite West End performer, even made a plea for help in finding her. During the search for Charlene, the police uncovered constantly present and not very well hidden child exploitation and prostitution in the seaside town. The town's darker side was finally exposed. Before Charlene disappeared, this side of Blackpool had been disguised by the party atmosphere and happy-looking kids and teenagers. Sue McGurty, coordinator of Mothers of Sexually Abused Children, or MOSAC, told the Guardian newspaper that there have always been shocking levels of exploitation of children in this town, but before Charlene Downes went missing, it was completely swept under the carpet. Seasonal workers in the town and the large number of low-cost, privately rented accommodation mean that there's a constant flow of people moving into and out of Blackpool. Poverty levels are high, and Blackpool is actually listed as the 12th poorest area in the country. The number of children on Blackpool's Child Protection Register who are vulnerable to or experiencing this form of abuse is at 16%, almost twice the national average, as is the number of children living in care homes or foster families. The suicide rate among 15 to 19 year age group in Blackpool is 8 times higher than the UK average. Underage and unprotected sex is rife. HIV cases rose by 50% between 2001 and 2004. 1 in 12 girls is pregnant before the age of 18. One of the most disturbing facts is that on average, 2 more young children aged between 11 and 14 are found to be homeless in Blackpool every month. Children are attracted to the bright lights of Blackpool, and there are always plenty of predators waiting for them to arrive, knowing that they will be cold, hungry, homeless, and possibly already victims of abuse. Out of the frying pan into the fire. There are approximately 800 convicted high-risk offenders. High risk against children. Offenders living in Blackpool. So why do so many child abusers live in Blackpool? Asks Wendy Shepherd from the children's charity Barnardo's. Alongside the increase in child exploitation, there's a marked increase in the sex industry as a whole in Blackpool, and sex tourism masquerading as stag weekends. Questions need to be asked about the links. Recently, the Coalition for the Removal of Pimping, or CROP, a child protection charity based in West Yorkshire, warned that Blackpool is becoming one of the hotspots where children and young people are sold to older men for exploitation. There's some evidence that disproportionate numbers of men from migrant communities are involved in the abuse of girls. Opportunism is one possible explanation, according to a police officer who worked on missing children's cases. He said a number of them work illegally in the takeaways, which is where a lot of the vulnerable girls either work for pocket money or hang out. The Awaken Project, a multi-agency initiative led by police and social services, was set up a year after Charlene disappeared, as a direct response to the case. There have been calls for the project to be extended to cover the whole of the UK, but so far the government has been slow to respond, despite Awaken's success. Hello, government? Yes, you. Yes, you lot that were voted for by the people, who are paid by the people, so therefore work for the people. Anyone out there listening? Our children are at risk and they need help. Do something to make it at least look like you actually give a shit about their future. The team, which brings together professionals from licensing, social services, education and police, aims to root out and arrest the abusers before they do serious harm and protect the children from exploiters. Officers target what they call honeypots, likely to attract both children and offenders, such as the takeaways, amusement arcades and the pier in Blackpool, which Charlene visited the night she vanished. All of them. Takeaway, amusement arcade and the pier. All of them. Paul Philpott, a detective inspector in Blackpool and coordinator of the Awaken Project, explains how abusers target their prey. The common scenario is a young person being befriended by a significantly older male, groomed with small gifts, free food, small amounts of money. They give the young person lots of attention and affection. And when they feel they will get away with it, they take advantage of the young person, making them feel complicit in their own abuse. Those targeted are often 13 to 14 years old and are persuaded into sex in exchange for clothes, cheap jewellery or money. It's more subtle than how most people think of child prostitution, he said. The Golden Mile between the North and Central Piers, which takes in the promenade and the Winter Gardens, also includes the Lucky Star amusement arcade, which is where John Goodfellow, a convicted child abuser, tried to entice a group of children back to his flat by giving them money to play on the slot machines. He was jailed for 7 years in July 2005 for attempting to procure minors for sexual activity. Charlene was from a loving family, but as previously noted, prior to her going missing, a chaotic one. At the time that Charlene disappeared, a homeless man, whom a family member had invited to stay, was revealed to be a sex offender against young children. He was revealed to, like, the rest of everywhere. Her father said he didn't know. Of course he bloody knew. Because he knew when he was doing exactly the same thing when they lived in the West Midlands. Because that's why they had to move. Because he was harbouring sex offenders. And the rumour was that they were actually selling their children to the sex offenders. And that's how they were making money on top of their benefits. But that was just a rumour. The area where the Downes live has several boarded up houses, few amenities and a high level of street crime. It was not the first time that Charlene had been missing. So when she went missing this time around, the Downes family were under the impression that the police attitude was, here we go again, rather than taking the report seriously. Karen is angry that her daughter's death has barely been noted outside of Blackpool, and that her case has warranted far less attention than those of other missing children. I couldn't understand why the police would not put information out about Charlene on TV, and why only the local paper was interested in her disappearance, said Karen. I often wonder, if she'd been from a posh family and was having piano lessons, would they have tried harder to find her? Maybe if you'd have reported her missing as soon as she went missing, instead of waiting for 2 days, Karen, then they would have took it seriously. Because then they would have known that you were taking it seriously. I found out, said Karen Downes to The Guardian, that Charlene was getting chips for performing oral. She then asked, how can those bastards do that to kids? Now, I understand why she asked that question. I really do. But I've got another question. How did Charlene not know that it was wrong? And another question. Did you not feed her at home? Did she really need the chips that bad? Just asking. Following a police decision to treat Downes' disappearance as murder, there were several arrests in the case, and 2 men actually stood trial in May 2007. The prosecution alleged at Preston Crown Court that Charlene had been murdered by Ayad al-Batiki, a 29-year-old from Jordan, and the owner of Funny Boys fast food outlet in Blackpool, and Mohammed Raveshi, his business partner, was accused of disposing her body. According to the prosecution, al-Batiki had intercourse with Charlene. The prosecution alleged that the men had discussed disposing of her body by putting it in kebabs and selling it in the fast food outlet. These conversations were overheard and included that they could use her bones and grind them up, use the powder in the tile grouting. How sick is that? Even if it wasn't real, even if it was just, a fantasy, that is one sick fantasy, 2 sick fantasies. Very disturbed men. The jury failed to reach a verdict. A retrial was ordered and scheduled for April 2008, but such serious errors in the Lancashire Constabulary's covert surveillance evidence were identified that the Crown Prosecution Service could offer no case, and the men were released. In 2011, al-Batiki was convicted of assault after headbutting an 18-year-old woman. Absolute scum. After a critical report by the Independent Police Complaint Commission, IPCC, one of the detectives involved, Detective Sergeant Jan Besant, was found guilty of misconduct by Lancashire Constabulary and told to resign. But the Police Arbitration Tribunal overturned the decision. In 2014, Besant's lawyer said that she was suing the police for up to £500,000 as her transcripts from the covert operation were, in fact, entirely accurate. The police actually got somebody else to listen to the transcripts of hidden microphones, listening to conversations from the 2 men that stood trial. And they came up with things totally different to what she came up with. Apparently she wasn't trained to do what she did. She just volunteered and they let her do it. But because they said she was a screw-up, the case never went forward. Mick Gradwell a former detective superintendent with Lancashire Constabulary, said that the police inquiry into child grooming in Blackpool, Blackburn and Burnley had been hampered by political correctness, according to the Daily Telegraph, because the girls were white and the perpetrators were not. In 2013, journalist Sean Thomas noted in the Daily Telegraph that the original Charlene Downes article on Wikipedia had been deleted in June 2007 and argued that this might be an attempt to redraft history and to not give coverage to far-right politics. Charlene's disappearance became the subject of a BBC Panorama programme, The Girl Who Vanished, on the 10th of November 2014. In December 2014, BBC Crime Watch staged a reconstruction of her last sighting, and the police offered a £100,000 reward for information leading to the conviction of the killer or killers or recovery of the body. As I've said on previous posts, I am opinionated. I'm a mother and a grandmother, and I give a shit. Okay, some may say that the blessed BBC at least tried to do something to help Charlene, her family, and the rest of the precious children in this country. But hello, British Broadcasting Corporation, you are nothing but a bunch of government-led donkeys. It was too little, too late. Charlene went missing on November the 1st, 2003. 11 years before you jumped on the political bandwagon, trying to put right the wrongs that have been done by many. Yes, I said many. I am including the fact reported by British newspapers that I won't name because I'm a Scouser, that Charlene was missing for 2 days before it was reported to the police by her mother. Along with social workers, the school, British government, local government, press and media, the police, the courts, etc., etc. Some tried, but being bound by red tape and or political correctness, they unfortunately did not save and have still not succeeded in finding her or getting justice for Charlene. At the time, you lot should have been helping. At the time you were needed. In those first vital hours and days of Charlene's disappearance, you all looked the other way. You chose to ignore the eventual cries of a family. The cries that may have come a bit too late, but they were still there. Along with the cries of a community, the cries of a popular town in the northwest of this Great Britain we call home. There is still time to save lost children, frightened children, homeless and hungry children that come after this debacle. So don't leave it too long. Don't let more families suffer the loss of a child. Don't let the children slip through the cracks. At least try and give them a chance. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Thank you, George Benson, for that meaningful line. Do it right. Do what you get paid for. Do your fucking jobs. Rant over. In April 2008, the week after the attempt to retrial failed, Charlene Downes stabbed her husband during an argument. The wounds were minor, and he declined to press charges, saying that she was just maddened with worry and frustration. In March 2009, Charlene's sister Emma pleaded not guilty to racially aggravated assault against the brother of the man who had been charged with murdering Charlene. She maintained that her assault on the man's brother had never been racially motivated. On the first day of her trial, the prosecution accepted her plea to common assault, obviously a less serious offence, and she was sentenced to community service. In 2012, Charlene's brother, Robert, admitted in court to punching the man who had faced the charge of helping to dispose her body. He was given a fine and a suspended sentence. On the 1st of August 2017, police arrested a 51-year-old man from Preston who lived in Blackpool at the time of Charlene's disappearance on suspicion of murdering her, but he was released 2 days later. On the 4th of December 2021, Charlene's brother, Robert, sadly passed away from the deadly effects of a heroin overdose. He was found dead in his bedroom at around midnight by his father, Robert Sr. Charlene remains missing, and there has been no recovery of a body or any sightings. Thank you so much for letting me tell you this story. Thank you so much for listening. It really means a lot. If you found it interesting, please hit the like button and subscribe. Why not? Doesn't cost you anything. Totally free. It just means that YouTube will actually notify you when my next story is out. Okay? And please remember this. Give someone a smile. Here's one. Pass it on. I've been Sue, TTFN.